long time I wondering what's the cause. For the rich and poor, they have different laws. They might act the same, but friends, it's absurd.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Allow me to recognize the members of our board and senior management with us this evening, Mr. Terrence Walker, Mrs. Nicole Crooks, our other members of management at the bank, our guest of honor, Dr. Rudolph Otley, Ms. Kiba Jacob Motley, CEO of the NCC, Mrs. Lynette Quamina, member of the board of directors of the Divas Calypso Cabaret International, and other members of the board, our other team of the External Relations Department, our senior curator, Naima Miwaka Zakuri, and members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Central Bank. My name is Christine Nanton Winter. I'm the head of the External Relations Department here at the bank, and so under my remit, I have responsibility for our art spaces, namely museum as well as the auditorium. So it is my absolute pleasure to invite you here with us this evening to celebrate a momentous occasion, one fitting of the time of year when the carnival season, but we also have to remember our beginnings and look towards our future. So just to open for us, I'll invite Mrs. Crooks to join me. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine, and good evening, everybody. And I promise my notes are very short. And it would be great if you come a little closer, if you feel like. So it feels even more intimate. Just acknowledging the presence of Dr. Otley, who is the reason that we're here this evening. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to this exhibition. It's our first for 2025. So it's from Chanterelle to Calypsonian, celebrating 90 years of female Calypsonians in Trinidad's commercialized Calypso tents. It's a testament to the bank's vision of the museum as a space for critical dialogue, shedding light on often overlooked yet vital aspects of our cultural identity. It delves into the fascinating history of women's involvement in Calypso, exploring themes of colonial censorship, gender dynamics, and the resilience of our cultural traditions. As a woman, this resonates deeply with me, as I'm sure it does with all the women in the room. The project is a collaborative effort with the Divas Calypso Cabaret International, the world's only all-female Calypso organization and tent. Yes. A special thank you must be extended to Dr. Rudolph Otley, because this exhibition, as I understand it, is grounded in your life's work and extensive research on the contributions of women to the Calypso tradition. Dr. Otley, we commend your groundbreaking research, and we are confident that this exhibition will inspire further academic exploration and public discourse on the intersection of gender, culture, and socio-historic developments in Trinidad and Tobago. We hope that visitors to the exhibition will gain a richer appreciation for the history of Calypso and the pivotal role women played and continue to play in preserving this art form. We are truly grateful for opportunities to have partnerships like this one. So once again, welcome to you all. Thank you for braving the weather. Thank you for coming here when we could possibly be in a fete. We really, really appreciate your presence. We hope you enjoy the exhibition and that you leave with a whole renewed appreciation and with just energy and excitement and love for our culture. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Mrs. Crooks. And we have two special persons who will give remarks prior to Dr. Otley. I'd like to welcome Ms. Kiba Jacob Motley, CEO of the NCC.
Mrs. Nicole Crooks, Senior Manager, Human Resources. Mrs. Christine Nanton Winter, Manager, External Relations, and other members of the management of the Central Bank. Dr. Rudolph Otley, Guest of Honor and collaborator for this exhibition. Mrs. Lynette Quamina, Member of the Board of Directors of the Divas Calypso Cabaret International, and other members of the board. Mrs. Naima Muakil Zakuri, Senior Curator, Central Bank Museum, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. At the National Carnival Commission, our mission is to promote Carnival and our Carnival culture as a viable enterprise, and to facilitate the marketing of Carnival and to ensure that we preserve our Carnival traditions. While Carnival is literally our job, we recognize that we cannot do it alone. And so we are greatly appreciative of the Central Bank for an initiative like this to help the National Carnival Commission and the people of Trinidad and Tobago appreciate our culture and our heritage. Thank you. So this exhibition, From Chanterelle to Calypsonian 2025, marks 90 years of female Calypsonians. And of course, this is important and dear to me because growing up, looking at the Marche Gras and seeing over the years, of course, female Calypsonians participating with a kind of power and energy, that if I dare say that some of the men, didn't have, because, it's just a lot of emotion and it was okay to express themselves and show their emotions and their feelings, and even in the content of their lyrics, and what they sang about always resonated with me. And so it is really, really an honor to give support to this exhibition. Naima, I thank you, because as a curator, you continue to help us keep our stories alive. And as a female curator as well, I really do appreciate the hard work. And I know that it's a lot of hard work, Naima. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And in terms of, and I'd just also like to say thank you to Dr. Otley for this body of work through which we are able to remember the stories of our female Calypsonians. So on behalf of the National Carnival Commission, congratulations to the Central Bank, and thank you for inviting us to share this moment with you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacob Motley. At this time, we'll have Mrs. Lynette Quamina, member of the Board of Directors of the Divas Calypso Cabaret International, to join us. Thank you.
All protocols observed, except I would like to mention Miss Haushine. Is she here? This evening, it is my pleasure to deliver brief remarks about Dr. Rudolph Otley. From time to time, I may go into Rudy as opposed to Dr. Otley. Dr. Otley, Rudolph Otley, is a scholar, historian, researcher, educator, archivist, tent owner, manager, calypso adjudicator, human resource professional, rum connoisseur, cricketer, tennis player, footballer, family man, and an advocate for women. Apart from all that, perhaps his greatest accomplishment is that he qualifies to be called my friend. I met Rudy 40 years ago when he was my lecturer in history and contemporary issues at the University of the West Indies. We immediately started fighting, and that fight has continued to today. However, that fight has resulted in me reopening my curious mind to a greater appreciation of our history and culture. Rudy struck me then as no ordinary lecturer. He possessed a unique style, which included exposing his students to field trips. These field trips included Spaniards,
calypso tents, watering holes, also known as rum shops, to name a few. His assignments propelled his students to dig deeper to obtain the facts. This evening, I will be brief and hope that you do some digging into Dr. Otley's other work. One of his strengths is his passion to uplift women in our society, as evidenced in his written contribution on issues, challenges, and roles of women in Calypso and Carnival, and for attempting to open our eyes to the richness of our culture. Evidence of his work, apart from what is presented in this exhibition, can be found in his 14 publications that have documented our history in Calypso and supporting aspects of the genre. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not yet acquired these publications, I urge you to do so. Everything Rudy does is properly researched, documented, and fact-checked before being presented. And it is in a format that is easy to understand by all users. It isn't always as easy as it looks, I'm sure, but he does it so effortlessly, and perhaps that is why some may take his work for granted. He also put his money where his heart is by investing his funds in the only all-female Calypso tent in the world, which is really more than a tent. The Divas Calypso Cabaret International is an organization which has been a nurturing ground for many, a haven for others, a university for some, and even an escape. And it is a place that provides quality female entertainment in Trinidad and Tobago, not only for the carnival season, but also throughout the year. Some women who started out as cadets in the cabaret 21 years ago have won national titles or placed among other premium positions. Some have risen to become admirals in their own right. Some have moved on to other tents and have also won or placed in top positions in national competitions. Dr. Otley also staged a Soca Monarch competition just for women. He attracted all the top female artists at that time. I believe it was in 2005. I'm no historian, I could be off by a year or two. Perhaps we can look forward to a publication of women in soca as well. Hint, hint. I have not done my research to determine the extent to which his body of work is used in our tertiary institutions, but I'm sure I am aware of requests from regional and international institutions for him to participate in learning programs, and his publications are used way beyond our shores as research material. Pardon me if I sound boastful about these accomplishments. It is that I am proud of him and his accomplishments. I overlook his obstinate disposition at times because I know this mission of his is not easy. And speaking of obstinate, I also want to honor someone who has tolerated his quirks, stood with him for over 4.5 decades while he achieved these goals and more. My sister friend, his wife, Norma. Give Norma a round of applause, please. Just imagine, Rudy has even converted part of his house into a museum. a Calypso museum. And in addition to that, he has a room of archives, of archived material. Now, which woman would really take all of that for all this time? In closing, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to say a heartfelt thank you to the Central Bank Museum for partnering with Dr. Otley to present this gift to all of us, this exhibition from Chanterelle to Calypsonian, celebrating 90 years. I look forward to more from you, Rudy, as you continue to play your part in opening our minds to our rich history. I thank you for your attention. Enjoy the evening and have a great carnival, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Naima Mawakil Zakuri, and I'm the Senior Curator here at the Central Bank Museum. I'll talk a little bit about the exhibition later on, but my job right now is to introduce the man of the hour, Dr. Otley. The first time I met Dr. Otley was in 2020 when we were doing an exhibition called Money and Music in collaboration with Tuco, and we were struggling for content. And then somebody said, but call Dr. Otley. I'm like, who's Dr. Otley? And I met him, and then I realized that I was in school at Bishop's with his daughter, Chanterelle. So that connection was made at first, and now 5 years later, we're collaborating with him again for this beautiful exhibition. Dr. Otley completed his PhD in Cultural Studies at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, where he's currently employed as a senior instructor. He has published 10 books on Calypso, some of which you will see in the exhibition. And he has also been a panelist on the National Carnival Commission, selecting of finalists for the National Calypso Monarch for a number of years, as well as a member of the National Calypso Committee with responsibility for developing training programs for aspiring judges and Calypso tent management. And he has also judged competitions around the world, to name a few places: Grenada, Toronto, London. So Dr. Otley, I would like to welcome you to the stage to bring your feature remarks.
Good afternoon, each and everyone. Thanks for being here. I'd like to first of all thank the management of Central Bank, Governor, and the staff for collaborating with me for this project. I'd like to also point out Malachi, Nima and her team for enduring the long conversations at nights and mornings trying to get this project off the ground. I'd also like to recognize in the audience the CEO of the NCC. I know she has recently started, and I don't envy her the scandal, but we'll talk as we go along. Also like to recognize Dr. Pat Mohammed, a lady who I've used her work in some of my studies, because once you talk about women in Trinidad, you must refer to Pat Mohammed's work and also Dr. Rhoda Reddock. I also like to recognize a good friend of mine, L. Anthony Watkins, who has been on the journey with me, both in Toronto and in parts and other parts of Trinidad, places we won't mention right now. I have my friend Samarima, the gay family and their wives, and my son, Kareem, who's here, and the newly married Gibbs family. I'd like to welcome and thank you all for coming. Why are we assembled? Basically, is to share with you this journey, which started way in Toronto, cold Toronto in the 1970s. Toronto afforded me the time to really research and delve into Calypso. I had the time in the winter nights to analyze Calypsos. And it's during those analyses of Calypsos and the narrative surrounding Calypsos, I recognized that there was a void in terms of the narrative surrounding women in Calypso. It appeared at that time that only men sang calypsos because what you were exposed to in terms of the records were mainly male produced or male performers. So when I returned to Trinidad in 1981, I continued that research by visiting the National Archives, NALIS, and there, reading the Gazette and some of the archival material of the 1940s, I encountered Lady Trinidad. And it appeared to me, well, who's this lady that there's hardly anything written about? And I continued digging and more information. But we must understand, though, that the people who were writing about the culture at the time had little or no interest in the performers or in the carnival, unless they would say negative or stereotypical types of information on the carnival. You know, they talk about the Jamet woman. And when they talk about the woman in carnival from the 1940s right up to, even nowadays after Ash Wednesday, in our own newspapers, you hear people talk about scantily dressed women and the women whining. And so there have always been that negative narrative about women in carnival, and even so in Calypso. Remember, when we talk about Calypso, we must recognize the fact that it took a while before Calypso became accepted or acceptable by the status quo in the society. And for a woman, Lady Trinidad, in 1935, to venture into the Calypso arena, it took a lot. And therefore, when we talk about the revolutionaries of the society, Lady Trinidad is one of those people who is seldom mentioned. But without her doing that groundbreaking effort to get into the Calypso tents in 1935, women and the role they have played would have further been eradicated from the history of the culture. Because going back to the days of the Guile, after emancipation and in the barrack yards, it was the woman who was central to all of the activities in the Guile. They were part and parcel of the stick fights. They were part and parcel of the singing. They were part and parcel of the drumming and any instrumentation, and they were involved in the mass. Something happened along the way where the writers of the era, and in most cases, the colonial writers, did not see the significance of the women of that era. For example, if you look back at 1881, with the Canterbury riots, the women were there carrying the stones and the bottles and the sticks. And there's also some folklore that stated that the first stone to be pelted at Captain Baker was pelted by a woman. And the point I'm making is that having played such significant roles in the culture, why was there little or no information on them in the society? We have to think about a number of reasons for that. The first one, remember we were in a colonial society where color and ancestry were very important. Important in terms of how this society was stratified. And the freed Africans were at the bottom of this society. The culture or the things they represented was also at the bottom of the society. And therefore, for you as a woman, a black woman in particular, to get any form of recognition, it meant that you had to endure criticisms, being ostracized. You had to be brave enough to venture beyond that. And even in the Guile or in the barrack yards, the women had their own challenges in trying to find a place, a rightful place. So that in reading all of the different archival material, and as I said before, upon encountering Lady Trinidad, I felt that, maybe I should do something about that. But that inspiration to do something only occurred in October 2003. Professor Rodock, who was at the time in charge of the Gender Affairs Department of UWI, invited me to present a paper on women in Calypso. That invitation stemmed from the fact that in 1992, I'd written my first book, which was entitled Women in Calypso. And there was a lunchtime seminar, and I attended the seminar. And after I presented my paper, one of the students said to me, well, you have so much information and you want to know so much about women in Calypso. What are you going to do about the situation? And I said at the time, you know, I don't know what I could do, but the fact is women are not given their rightful place. And I left with that question that haunted me for a long time. It encouraged me to visit my friend Watkins and discuss it over some beverages over a couple of weeks. And then it dawned on me that if I'm so interested, if I'm so committed, then I should do something. And out of that decision emerged the formation of the Divas Calypso Cabaret International. That was registered in 2004 and came out for Carnival 2004. So that was my first commitment to that whole journey of putting recognition and a face on improving the imagery of the women in Calypso. So that the Divas Calypso Cabaret is very important in the context of continuing that journey that was started by Lady Trinidad in 1935. But before reaching 2004, there are some significant milestones within the period 1935 to now. We have to talk about the Jamet woman. And I say Jamet woman in a very proud way, because it's a colonial term which is really meant or designed to devalue African women. It had nothing to do with misbehavior. The women of the time were barely expressing themselves in the only way they knew how to. They performed, they danced, they whined, they wore clothes or they didn't wear clothes. They behaved as they knew how to behave in their own way. And as I mentioned before, even in our current society, you find that, and bear me out, Ash Wednesday, when you look at the newspapers in Trinidad, you're going to find people saying or complaining, these women were scantily dressed, this and that and the other. And the point is, if you're going to be playing mass to an infectious beat with alcohol in your head, how do you expect a person who's costumed, I won't say playing mass, who's costumed, how do you expect them to respond or behave on the streets of Port-au-Spain? They're not going for communion. And then African women basically have a particular gait. They walk with their waist, and their waist, you find it illustrates or exhibits a certain kind of movement, which is perceived by some members in the society as being sexual. It's a natural walk. But I don't want to divert too much on that. So that between 1935 to now, you had the Jamets being vilified. Then later on, you had Lady Beginner and Lady Irie, and women who took the battle that was handed to them from Lady Trinidad. They, again, played their minor roles in their involvement in the Calypso tents. What became significant of their presence, though, was the fact that they had to audition and be part of, almost beg to be included in the tents. For example, Lady Beginner, after 5 or so years of failed auditions, only became a part of the tent when her husband used her as part of a duet to be in the tent, and then she was accepted. The same thing happened to Lord Irie and Lady Irie. So that women had to deal with that whole machismo, the male managers who, in their own way, felt that to be a female Calypsonian at the time, you had to have some special gift. Even if you were better singers, and even today in our society, there are better female singers and performers than male Calypsonians who cannot get into a tent. Because some of the male managers, especially my good friends up at Tuco, who prefer to select men, mediocre as they are, rather than select a young, vibrant, talented female because of the boys' club kind of situation that exists. So the business of the tent is where you find the whole question of where women fit into the carnival in terms of Calypso. The tent is very important for that Because without the Calypso tents, not only would females be ostracized, but the music itself may not have grown into what it is today. It has become a national song. So after Lady Trinidad and Lady Beginner and Lady Irene, we encountered Calypso Rose. And Calypso Rose would have played the most significant part in terms of the Calypso tent and women in the Calypso tent. Because Calypso Rose internalized her role, understood the assignment she had, which was to be a female representative, dismissing all of the negative stereotypes. No matter what they called her, no matter what they said about her, she represented in her own style, her own way. As a matter of fact, she was once referred to as the Sparrow of female Calypsonians, because she was everything what Sparrow was for women. She fought for women, she defended women, she opposed the mighty Sparrow or competed with the mighty Sparrow in terms of how he presented. Remember Sparrow in those early days sang about Picky Head Jane and all the kind of songs about women, which was not, which some people may have chastised him for, but it also reflected what he witnessed or what he saw in the society. But Rose, on the other hand, dealt with it and dealt with some of the sexual overtones that Sparrow dealt with in terms of women and men. Rose presented the female side of Sparrow, answered the mighty Sparrow. So Rose was very important. And later on, we had singing Francine, who, having started off as a chorus singer, moved from the background and came a spotlight in terms of this whole Calypso tent and women. The significance of Francine, though, is the name change from the Calypso King to the Calypso Monarch competition. There's a mythology going around that Calypso Rose was responsible for that. And the records will show between 1972 and 1976, Singing Francine was in more Calypso King finals than Calypso Rose. As a matter of fact, in 1975, Singing Francine came second to Lord Kitchener in the Calypso King competition. And it's because of that second place, the then Carnival Development Committee changed the name of the competition from the Calypso King to the Calypso Monarch in 1976, which was won by the mighty Trogdus. As a matter of fact, Trogdus won it in 1976 and 1977. Calypso Rose won the competition in 1978. But that rhetoric, that narrative continues to exist in the society where they claim that Calypso Rose is the one who was responsible for the name change. Yes, indirectly she was, but in terms of specific history and facts, Singing Francine would have been the one who played a more direct role in that name change. And as we continue along that journey, another important aspect of the Calypso and Calypso tent has to do with ethnicity. And in the context that the Calypso basically is an African musical form or genre. And a lot of non-African women weren't interested in becoming part of the Calypso fraternity and the Calypso tents. But significantly, there was a lady from the United States who in 1985, Lady Complainer, she sang at the Shadows Masters then tent on Henry Street, 1985. And she kind of broke the barrier where there was just a white woman in the tents. And then in 1986, we had Denise Plummer joining Culture House tent, which was then operated by Blue Boy. And then later on, we had Drupati Ramgunai joining Kitchener's Review. So that the ethnicity of the tent, the female ethnicity or the complexion of the tent began to change in terms of more women coming into the domain of the Calypso tents. And that is very significant because what it did, it also helped the economics of the tent in terms of a different grouping of people, different groups of people began to see themselves in the tent and became patrons and became involved in this whole Calypso tent business. And as we move along, we found that another significant thing was the United Sisters, whereby they became the first female group to end a Calypso show. And why is that important? in terms of the structure of a Calypso show, there are three basic sections. Opening section, which is normally by someone who new in the business or someone who is not really recognized. So whilst the patrons are going in, you could sing. And in most instances, that first person would have been a female. Then you have the start of the second half, where again, the same kind of thinking existed, whereby you put someone on stage who, okay, it could be a male or female. But the important part of the show used to be the end, who ends the show. And that was reserved for people like Lord Kitchener, the Mighty Shadow, Mighty Sparrow. When Rose won in 78, she did it for 78 and 79. But in 2002, 2000, no. Let me just get it. Anyway, United Sisters, in 1993, when they came out with their big hit, War Donkey, they were able to negotiate with the then NCC to be the star attraction, to be headliners, and to end the show. And that was history in itself. And to add insult to that whole concept was the fact that the four of them were paid separately, both as a group and as individuals. Just to illustrate the kind of power Sandra, Lady B, Marvelous Marvel, and Tigress had in terms of impacting the woman's presence in the Calypso tent. So that part of the exhibition is to highlight those four women who have really contributed to the Calypso arena. Another important aspect, and I know I could go on for the next 2 hours, but I'll try to wind up, is to the Calypso competitions. There's always the debate in Trinidad whether competitions are good or bad. In the context of Carnival, I would say it's something that's very important and it's good because given the society that we live in, it forces the artist, whether it's mass player, pan player, or Calypsonian, to annually improve on his or her skills, bring out that competitive fighting element. We cannot do like the Americans where they have a market where their ratings are based on economy of scale and sales of records or whatever they do now. Because our market is very small and that will not help them. So winning a competition brings status, it brings a reward, and also propels the artists to get international contracts. So that competition becomes important. The females, again, being regulated out of the competitions in the early 90s, because remember the first competition officially in Calypso was 1939. And you didn't have a woman until 1965 in the National Calypso King competition, Calypso Rose. So that when that happened, you found that the Mighty Sparrow and his organization at the Seamen at Sparrow's Young Brigade formed an all-female, or started, I should say, an all-female Calypso competition in 1969. That went on until 1972, and then a gentleman from South, Lal Pasotan, who was a businessman, he inherited that competition from this Mighty Sparrow and from 1972 up until 1983, he solely ran that competition, which gave the women who couldn't get into the Calypso tents the opportunity to perform during the carnival season. And then from 1985 to now, the NJAC people have their National Women's Action Committee Calypso competition. But so that those three different eras of the competition really provided that avenue, that women who were ignored membership in the Calypso tents will have had this situation, this opportunity to perform. And then, well, we have the other things of the soca and those things, but we won't get into that later on. So basically, the exhibition is to highlight the different eras I spoke about and to really point out the fact that we in Trinidad, we need to document our own stories because most of the archival information that's available are really from non-Trinidadians, which paints a different picture, especially those that came out of that colonial era, where they had a different grounding, they had a different mindset, they had a different reasoning for documented what they documented and how they saw what they documented. And therefore, the onus is on us to really write our own history, document our own stories, so that in years to come, we come closer to the realities of what Trinidad and Tobago's culture is all about. So once again, thank you all for coming. I hope I didn't bore you too much with all these dates and things, but and I hope you enjoyed the exhibition and we fulfill your thirst and quest for more information on Carnival and women in Calypso. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. So my name is Khadija Jeremiah, and I'm about to do my 2025 composition for you entitled "O Woman." Yeah. Woman, goodness gracious me, what is wrong with we? Yes, we woman, we always comparing, measuring and tearing each other apart. We are our worst enemy, that their talk is reality. Why are you so threatened by me? Well, if when you look all you see is competition, you'll abort your mission, you fail before you start. Cause in my mind I think in collaboration, combining visions and more productive parts. We like to call ourselves queen and everything in between, but reaching for your sister crown. A queen that has she own and her value is known. Help a sister to fix your crown. Don't try to lick it down. Whoa. Hey. Yeah. Woman, y'all don't make we shame, not for flam and fame. Oh gosh, woman, you go drag down a sister, try to humiliate her to better your name. Girl, you behave so insecure in your fight to accomplish more. Girl, you're fighting a one-man war. Well, if when you look all you see is competition, girl, abort your mission, you fail before you start. Cause in my mind I think in collaboration, combining visions and more productive parts. We can't call ourselves a queen and behaving so obscene, just despising your sister crown. Every queen does have she own and her value is known. Help a sister maintain she crown. Don't try to kick it down. Whoa. Hey. Yeah. Woman, we does make it hard in we own one damn yard. For we woman, we prefer reserve comments on the sisters' excellence. That's how we stop. In a world where man does reign, and we already under strain. Why are we self-inflicting pain? Well, if when you look all you see is competition, girl, abort your mission, you fail before you start. Cause in my mind I think in collaboration, combining visions and more productive parts. We like to call ourselves queen and everything in between, but reaching for your sister crown. Every queen does have she own, and her value is known. Help a sister maintain she crown. Don't try to lick it down. No. Hey. Yeah. Woman, we could coexist if we work at this. Oh gosh, woman, we don't have to compete. I could help you to complete any task at hand. Together our lights can shine. We don't have to choose yours or mine. Unity can be so divine. Well, if when you look all you see is competition, girl, abort your mission, you fail before you start. Cause in my mind I think in collaboration, combining visions and more productive parts. We can't call ourselves a queen and behaving so obscene, just despising your sister crown. Every queen does have she own, and her value is known. Help a sister to fix she crown. Don't try to lick it down. No. Tell me. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. From across the continent that someone's described as dark. Oh, I feel a vibration, feel a rhythm, feel a spark. Oh, when my spirit is feeling low, this natural mystic lifts me so, like a bongo or orisha drum. Deep in the Congo, calling this Sandra from Asian rhythm. Oh, makes me want to dance. Puts me in a trance. I can't control my feet. I was caught by their whip. I was tied on their ship. I was used, I was wrong, but I can't keep me down. Don't make face, them is gone. They crown me with thorns. I'm the root, I'm the rock, resolute like me love. Asian rhythm, healer of my pain. Asian rhythm, so I travel far. I am Africa. Asian's rhythm. brought here to this land, which I now do call my home. Oh, string begonian, though my spirit it still roams. Hey, in the ghetto, born and raised, to my ancestors are still giving praise. True religion, peace I found. Meditation when I lay on the morning drop. Heaven rhythm makes me want to dance. Puts me in a trance, flowing through my face. Now I'm free as a bird. Liberty is the word. West Indian, Caribbean, African, Nubian queen. My skin them is fun. Which crosses the burn. No, I won't be denied. There is beating inside. Heaven's rhythm. Oh, healer of the pain. Make me whole again. So I travel far. I am Africa. Emaliwa. Aliwo, yeah. Aliwo, yeah. Oh, Lubanati Mondo Yele. Hey, Aliwo, yeah. Hey. And sons written. So in time I've learned that with talent I was blessed. Oh yes, I've learned to let it go and let me God do the rest. Oh yes, ever humble with open eyes. Though I stumble, still I rise. Through every lesson, yes I've learned, helping others. In return, ancient rhythm makes me want to dance, puts me in a trance. All them days I miss, best village as a queen, heritage, belly queen, moving on, Kaiso, going strong, dance crusoe, dignity, our time, victory, it was mine, going strong, lady be cemetery, oh mommy, 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 you healer of my pain, make me whole again, so I travel far, I am Africa, Aliwo, yeah, Aliwo, yeah, oh, Dubanati Mondo Yele, hey, Aliwo, yeah, Aliwo, yeah. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.
Thank you so much, Khadija. Such a powerful and beautiful song and message. And congratulations. And congratulations. I know you will be at Skinner Park on Saturday. So we'll be rooting for you, especially me. I told you my daughter's name is Khadija, so we're rooting for you at our house. Okay, so I'm just going to go through quickly the people who I need to thank because I need to do this. This exhibition has been one of the most memorable exhibitions I have curated in my entire career. Like, as we continued to read and dig deeper, we just wished we had more time. We didn't, but it was an amazing experience. So, of course, I have to thank Dr. Otley for bringing this to our doorstep and telling us we must do this because we really needed to do this. Pearl Entu Springer, and Ida Kader Group, Dara Healy, and Attila Springer, her daughter, for loaning us some of the objects that you will see. We have a Jamet costume that they told me is 100 years old, worn by an actual Jamet. It blew me away. It's there in the museum, right? Lynette Kwamina for agreeing to come and give remarks. Kathy Beckles. Kathy is a young artist. She's here tonight. We didn't have any images of these women. You're talking about the colonial era. There was no photography, especially not in the Caribbean at that time. And we reached out to Kathy like really last minute. She's a teacher. We asked her to do some drawings based on some of the research that we did. And Kathy just, you all will see. It's like, I can't even, you all will see. Tessa Alexander, another artist. I saw her walking. Tessa is there. Tessa got the invitation and reached out to me. She said, I painted a portrait of Lady Trinidad and Calypso Rose. Do you want it for the exhibition? I said, yes. So we have that. Thank you, Tessa. The Alta Couch Foundation and a Desi Clark. Leroy Clark purchased sculptures, or he commissioned sculptures of Ella Andel and Singing Sandra from Sherlin Peters, an artist, and we found out that he had it, and his daughter lent us the sculptures. The National and Museum and Art Gallery also had a sculpture of Calypso Rose by Sherlin Peters, and they lent us. Landon Tremaine Fraunfelder, again, we wanted to create the imagery in people's minds because there's no imagery associated with this early period, and so we got him to do a miniature of 2 female stick fighters. So that's there. Ashley Sinanan from the National Archives. I can't thank Ashley enough. I don't know where she's gone, but we were calling Ashley every single day, and anything we wanted, we got it. And to me, the highlights of one of the highlights is that we got the actual Gazette document from the National Archives. They don't loan that to any and everybody, right? Arnim's framing and Arnim's printing, they were neck and neck with us through this whole show, and we thank them. And last but not least, my team, the External Relations Department, for continuing to support the work that the museum does and making life so amazing. Thank you, ER. Thank you, AV unit. Thank you, media unit, everybody who worked with us to do this. And my team, my museum team, they were up late nights with me, doing everything that we needed to do to make this happen. I don't know where they are. They're tired, but they're here, and you always see them. And so thank you, everyone, for being here, and I hope you enjoy the show and spread the word. It will be up for a few weeks. I know I'll be real sad to take it down, but we have other things happening, but it'll be up, so share the word, spread the word, take lots of pictures, and ensure that people come and learn about this important history. So thank you.
For a long time I wondering what's the cause. For the rich and poor they have different laws.